The easiest kind of lever, the I don't know, the mic drop thing I always use is, do you want your clients to become an asset or a liability? And it's one or the other. There's no middle ground.
From humble beginnings, Insurance Claim HQ has grown to one of the largest property casualty firms in the country. We didn't do it alone, and you shouldn't either. Every week, we're talking to claims professionals and top experts from all over, all to help you grow your business and make you stronger. Let's level up together. I'm Galen Hare. Welcome to the Level Up Claims Podcast.
Most businesses in this industry spend all their time trying to get the next client, but nowhere near enough time thinking about what happens to that client after they actually get one. And that's where a lot of money and opportunity gets lost. Today's guest, Bradley Rausch, focuses on exactly that. He helps businesses design what happens after the sale, from onboarding to referrals, so every client is worth more, stays longer, and brings more business with them. Let's get into it. I'm Galen Hare. If you're serious about winning in this industry, June 12th of 2026 matters. The Level Up Claim Summit brings together serious operators who want to sharpen their edge and separate from the pack. No fluff, no vendor circus, just real conversations with people who are actually moving this industry forward. Seats are intentionally limited. We keep the room exclusive. Once the room is full, registration closes. If you're ready to compete at a higher level, don't wait. Go to levelupclaim.com and request your seat now. I'll see you on June 12th. Bradley, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Galen, thank you for having me on, man. Looking forward
No,
to
I'm
it.
super pumped. We've had so many people on here that I would say have a sales background in terms of like that high ticket offer, but very few people that are able to talk about kind of taking it to the next level. So let's talk about how that even became something you paid attention to. So many people in high ticket sales, which I understand is your background, they're really just focused on the kill, and that's kind of it. And obviously that's going to be a huge part of our discussion today. But why? Why did you take it further? Why did you even care? I mean, weren't you making commissions and moving on?
Yeah. So I started off, dropped out of school, started off as a closer for about 3 years. I worked my way up to, back in 2021, what was the largest actual high ticket sales training organization as a closer. So it was very intense, very high strung, made a lot of money, was really good at it, et cetera, et cetera. And I saw, after about 6 months there, I saw how horribly the clients were treated on the back end. And I just realized it was just one of those things. I couldn't sleep at night thinking about it. And it's one of those things where I was like, if this is what it takes to get to nine figures, the first company, nine-figure company I'd ever been in, if this is what it takes to get to nine figures, I don't want any part of it. So I walked away from that opportunity. I went back to some of the companies I had closed for and said, hey, let me try my hand at your client success. And a lot of people opened doors for me when they didn't have to, gave me opportunities, et cetera. And I got to learn on the inside of some really amazing businesses. But over the last 5, 6 years since then, I've done a couple of things. One is build up, my own client roster of working with businesses, usually between about 500K to 3 million a year, and helping them build out what I call the for sale system. So it's the entire kind of IP that I've custom built for this entire increasing LTV, referrals, ascensions, better client experience, all of that put into one nice little package. And then I've also been the director of client success for an 8-figure B2B coaching and consulting company for 4 years of those 6 years or so, as well, and got to learn a lot from that. So now I do this full time though. This is my jam. So
And what is this?
yeah, so it's working with founder led coaching consulting SaaS companies, usually again between like 500K to 3 million, sometimes up to 5 or 10 million, but 500K to 3 million is usually my sweet spot. And working with them on, again, we call it for sale system, and sure we'll kind of get into the nitty gritty of it. But basically kind of a one-stop shop solution for integrating everything you need for the client success to be not only profitable, but low friction, easy to scale, and something that you can really use as an asset for your company instead of just a cost to your bottom line.
Yeah, and I love that low friction concept. I remember I watched that. I think I watched it on Netflix. I don't remember what it was on, but it was the Uber kind of series documentary. It wasn't really documentary, but remake series. super pumped. And that's one of the things they focused on was Uber's like absolute obsession at its initial founding to taking a very friction-filled experience, right? Getting in a cab, waving down a cab, then getting in the cab, then having cash to pay the cab, right? All that stuff, and making it as frictionless as possible. You know, they were obsessed with automatic payments. That's why they didn't tip at first because they didn't even want you going back into the app after you did your ride. They just wanted you to move on with your life, right? Um,
I didn't know. Interesting.
yeah, it's kind of neat because they've done okay for themselves, as a company. And it's kind of one of the things you seem to be preaching. So, talk to me about some typical kind of friction or pain points you see after the customer says yes.
Oh god, so many. Onboarding is a huge one that I spend a lot of my time working with businesses on. The opportunity that is missed in onboarding, and I think so many, whether it's coaching, consulting, SaaS companies, even outside of that though as well though, the opportunity to really mold the client's not only first impression but first working experience with you is huge for LTV, for long term client satisfaction, everything. When somebody comes in, especially with these higher ticket coaching consulting programs, when somebody comes in, they've just dropped probably one of the largest amounts of money they'll ever drop in their life on a thing they saw online on an ad. Uh, they're so not only malleable to, thinking that it's going to be better than what they thought, thinking it's going to be worse than what they thought, but they're nervous. They're anxious. There's fears, there's insecurities happening. And I think instead of very intentionally designing that, what I call the first 72 hours, instead of intentionally designing that, so many companies, so many programs just leave that to, oh, that's when we take care of our administrative stuff. We make sure contracts are signed. We make sure this, da, 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 da. All the while they're sitting there being like, I just dropped 20K on this thing that I think I know what it is, but I'm not actually quite sure what it is, and da, da, da. And like, my first call isn't for like a week. And what do I do in between? Like, there's all these questions that come up. And my argument is always, make sure that you have an answer for them. And that doesn't mean to be it doesn't mean that you need to have somebody on call to answer all those. It means you need to build out the infrastructure to set the expectation, to tell your client it's okay to feel X and Y and Z throughout this part of the process. The four quote unquote states that I'll help my clients to achieve within their onboarding process is really powerful. It's safety, clarity, momentum, and identity. If you can achieve all four of those states within the first 72 hours, the likelihood that your client lifetime value will soar long term is insane. And going into I'm happy to share, like more specifics on that and frameworks and how to achieve all that. But onboarding is one of them. To go back to your question, referrals is another one. Hugely, like I literally do an entire like TED talk on this. I feel like referrals is huge because so many people, you find in these mastermind groups, these coaching programs for coaches or consultants or high ticket, whatever, referrals are looked at and kind of preached as this like potential bonus or this like, oh, if you happen to have somebody bringing in a referral, it's great, but it's really hard to expect it, or you can't expect it, or don't plan on building on any infrastructure around it because you can never know when they're coming in. I find that to be completely bullshit. Feel free to bleep that out. But completely BS. Uh, referrals are absolutely 100% can be engineered. One of the easiest lifts that I find, just very quick things to change around is the timing of the ask. So many people wait until the end of a program, when quote unquote the results look the best. So many people wait until the end to ask for, oh, hey, by the way, do you know of anybody else who we could help do X and Y and Z? I'm sorry, but by the end, they're already looking at the next thing. They're already thinking, oh, well, I was sold on X and Y and Z, but I only got A, B, and C. Like the conversation that they're having in their head is not attuned to you asking them to give discretionary effort to go and find you somebody else to work with and to pitch to. You have to ask when their belief that they will achieve results, regardless of whether they have yet achieved them or not, is the highest. And oftentimes I find that comes between about 30 to 50% of the way through the container. So if it's a 6 month program, you're looking at about end of month 2, early month 3 is when to really start to have those pointed referral conversations when they have the pieces of momentum, the big wins. They start to see progress. They start to see something happening. And you say, hey, listen, this is really fantastic that you've been doing this. I tell you what, do you by chance know of anybody who would also strive and who would also want to succeed in this X and Y and Z way that we just helped you accomplish? I would love to send them a quick 10-minute Loom video just to show what you and I have done to give them context on what they can also experience.
Yeah. I mean,
The reciprocity. that you get from somebody having come off of a huge win and asking them that, I mean, it's butter. It's easy.
Yeah.
Done.
No, you're right. Now that I think about it, any kind of program I've been in, like coaching or whatnot, my happiness factor is probably, I would agree, 30 to 50% through, right? It's never the
Mhm,
first few weeks. I'm
mhm.
still a little skeptical, even if the
Exactly.
onboarding's good. But then I start to have some wins, and then invariably the reason as the program winds to a close, I mean, that's exactly it. I'm thinking, man, you told me I'd do this, you told me I get this, you told me I get that. Um, and
Exactly.
I
Now
yeah.
the
Go.
the the issue that those things aren't achieved, and I always have to my disclaimer here is always it's absolutely an issue that those things that were promised aren't achieved, and that's a whole other conversation which we can get into. I am not advocating for misleading or misselling your clients. I'm simply saying that regardless of whether or not you actually achieve all the things that you promise your client you would within the container that you have them for, the best time to ask for referrals is in that 30 to 50%
Oh,
window.
agreed. Yeah. No, and I think that's a fair point, right? No one's advocating, hey, sell them a bunch of stuff you're not going to give them, but make sure you give them some stuff so you can get referrals. Like
Exactly.
clients, right? I never have a client that recovers every single penny they want to recover. I don't promise them they'll recover that, right? But that's not to say, our lawyers are probably messing up. They're asking after a settlement, which by definition means our client is not overjoyed with the result. They settled, right?
Right.
They're asking after a settlement, "Hey, do you know anyone that needs our help?" And they really should be asking during the beginning when they kind of see how fierce our lawyers are and how hard they fight. They should be saying, "Hey, is there anyone
Yeah.
else we can help? We'd like to help your neighbors or your friends." So it
Yeah.
makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
What I find another really quick thing is, if you can bake into your delivery what I like to call unmarketed delivery moments, where it's a very low effort, low lift on your end, low friction, yet you yet it gives huge discretionary effort vibes. Like it comes off to the client like, wow, I can't believe they did this for me. Like, oh my gosh, this is like wasn't even promised. I wasn't told I was going to get this, but wow, this is so valuable. I can't believe they did this for me. All the while you knew you were going to do it from the get-go because you already baked it into delivery. You already have it going at scale. Those are also really great moments to ask for referrals. Even in Ascension testimonial are also fall into this category as well. Those are also great times. The perfect time to ask for referrals and ascensions. Obviously, sorry, testimonials and ascensions. Strategy is a little bit different, but of course, it's the same timing kind of applies. But those unmarketed delivery moments, when you can do that at scale, that's again one of the easiest lifts that'll help install, and it builds so much emotional equity with the client.
Do you have an example of that, like an unmarketed deliverable that was kind of low friction, easy to put in?
Yeah. We do a lot with custom AIs. So oftentimes what I will find is that taking the IP of a coaching program, and then drifting that off into building that out inside of a custom AI takes, what, an hour, 2 hours maybe to put together something really comprehensive. Um, and then an example is a sales coaching offer that I worked with. They'll take one of their first initial actual calls that they did because obviously they have their closers record the transcript and then send it back for training and da 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 da, and, reviews and stuff like that. They're not promised. They're not said they're good. Say they're going to be given any sort of one-on-one review or take on what they did. Da, 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 da. They're simply setting it in. They're having the feedback in a group container. So of course it's still valuable, but it's not pointed. It's not one to one. It doesn't come with that extra like, wow, I put 30 minutes into giving you this full review and I listened to the call and I took notes and da 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 da. Da. So they have their full IP baked into this AI. They upload the transcript to the custom AI. It does its thing and spits out all the stuff. And somebody needs to film a 10-minute Loom video going over the three biggest things that they could have done differently on the call and how to do them differently next time. At scale, it takes 10 minutes to do the damn Loom video and 30 seconds to copy and paste it over another custom AI and let it do its thing. Yet the client looks at that as, oh my God, you took all this time and reviewed my call, and now there's this pointed stuff that I can go and apply. And it was for me, this is insane. It's easy.
Genius. I love that. So let's talk about. I'm going to kind of skip around because
Go
you've
for it.
got so much energy, and I mean that in the best way. Um, how so onboarding? I mean, the thing I've always heard is like first 72 hours are pretty crucial, but how do you curate that time period?
Yeah. So again, back to there's four states you want to achieve: the safety, clarity, momentum, identity. Just a really quick rundown in each of those. Safety essentially just makes people feel hey, I'm not a random number on a sheet that I just enrolled to a thing. They actually see me, I'm here, and I know how to get support. Easiest way to install safety, do what I call a safety call. It's a call from a real human. Maybe give it another 5 years, and AI will be at the point where it will be indistinguishable. But real human, it can be a very low level CS support person. Doesn't need to be like the founder, the CEO, or whatever. Uh, Safety call, 10 minutes, just literally going over. Hey, saw you entered. Really excited for you to join. This is just a call, checking up, making sure A, you're feeling good about feeling good about the decision, ready to go. B, want to make sure you have access to everything you need access to. And C, want to make sure and you know when your first touch point is. Your first call is scheduled for next Tuesday at 9. Great, great, fantastic. If you have any questions in the meantime, let me know. The dividends that pays just in that first period of time that they know that you know that they're there, and it's just like this sigh of relief. Um, Easiest thing to do. That's safety. Clarity, this is essentially just taking them from, okay, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I should be focused on. I don't know how I should be feeling to knowing what to do, knowing how to feel, etc. Easiest way to that I find to install this, also with the use of AI, create what I like to call a just a micro asset or a micro next step asset, basically next step asset, where you're again build out a custom AI, input everything that they mentioned from their sales call, input the entire sales call transcript in there, build out, have it spit out a transcript for a Loom video, have you have that same low level CS person or maybe somebody on the CS team film a 10-minute Loom video that just walks them through, hey, so these are the first three things based on what you said in your call. We want to focus on da 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 da. Here are the first three things you need to focus on, ABC. Here's what not to focus on because we need to make sure that we facilitate this with you properly. So don't touch this yet. And then most importantly, saying something like, "Listen, over the next week, you're gonna feel this, this, and this, and that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be because X and Y and Z." And you just, especially, I find that this one's especially useful for those very emotionally driven sales, right? Maybe it's a first time entrepreneur or somebody wanting to lose weight for the first time. Those ones where it's just like the volatility in the client's emotion can go from 0 to 100 in 10 seconds. So giving that framing and letting them know, like, hey, this is the pattern you're probably going to be feeling, and that's okay. That's what it's designed for. Again, just breath of fresh air for them. Momentum, again, basically taking them from I'm going to start next week or I don't know when I'll start to not only have I started, but I've already seen progress. Favorite way to install this is again with the use of AI, custom GPT, and you essentially using your IP again. You essentially build out something where they can enter they enter essentially a set of information. It gives them a game plan and questions to basically follow up or ask themselves, etc. Work through. They bring the progress of that to their first interaction versus waiting for that first interaction for them to start seeing progress, if any. Easy example of this is for a fitness offer. Um, I've helped a couple of fitness coaches do this and works so well. So feel free to steal this, which is you build out a custom GPT around your frameworks. If you're calorie counting or if you're macros or if you're whole foods focused, whatever you are, build out a GPT that preaches all that. And then have them upload every single item in their pantry and their fridge. And then it spits out a red, yellow, green of reds you got to throw away, yellow you got to moderate, green you're good to go. And it spits out a grocery list of everything that they should go and get to replace the things that they're throwing out, and 10 questions to make sure that they know, or 10 questions to ask themselves and journal on before their first call with the
Hmm.
coach. Just so much momentum right out the gate. And they literally get that from day one. Or it's on a to do sheet. And the last one is identity. Really simple, is just taking them from I'm a transaction to I want to be in this community. This is a community I want to belong in. Easiest way I find to do this is to make a peer-to-peer introduction within the first 72 hours. So a lot of people will do, a welcome post or a group onboarding call or whatever. Scrap all that. Make a peer-to-peer introduction with someone else, regardless of if they're at the same time period in the program, right? Maybe they signed up a month ago or a month later, whatever. But make a peer-to-peer introduction, highlighting a very specific part of that client's journey, whether it be maybe something they've struggled with in the past or one thing they're worried about in the future, a certain advantage they have along the process, right? I don't know if it's a fitness coaching offer or something. Um, Link up two guys who absolutely have exactly 0 time to work out, yet they still wanna find a way to do their corporate guys, they work 80 hours a week, yet they're like, "Oh, I still really wanna do this." They have a plan, but pairing them up with that other guy to say, "Hey, I see you, I know exactly what it is you need, and by proximity, I'm showing you that by linking you up with this other person so you can hold each other accountable who has the same issues, has the same concerns." And so that is the rundown of 4 different states you want to achieve in the first 72 hours. It sounds like a lot. It is a lot, but at scale, again, at scale with systems, I promise it is very easily implementable.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot, but it sounds manageable, you know? And it sounds like it's all
Yeah.
really designed to build trust, and I think that's a little bit different than, like, I know a lot of companies, well, some companies have no onboarding, but other companies turn around and they do the opposite, and it's like an information dump. Like, I
Yeah.
signed up for a fitness program about a year ago. Actually, just texted them that I was not gonna renew. So it must have been a year ago. And, what happened is I signed up, I was pretty excited. Their marketing was okay, their sales call was pretty good. Um, and then it was like homework, 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 homework for like a week. Watch this 3-hour video, watch this 2-hour video, watch
Yes.
this 3-hour video. None of this tailored to me, by the way, just all things that I was supposed to watch. Okay, now go in and enter all these things. Then watch these tutorials to use these apps. Check off that you did those, and then we'll give you access to the app. Ugh, I know how to use an app. Like, I don't need the step-by-step tutorial, and honestly, I was kinda sick of the program before I started, so I was completely non-compliant, right? Um, didn't go off the rails and do all this unhealthy stuff, but didn't do their check-ins, didn't use their app
Right.
because I was sick of them before I started. I mean,
No.
I was, like, reading the contract to see ways I could get my money back, if anything.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I think that information dump really does happen. I think sometimes people get overwhelmed, and then you turn around and say, "Well, this was a non-compliant customer, so of course they didn't meet my offer," but you also kinda made them that way. They obviously didn't intend to be non-compliant when they wrote
1000
you a check.
1000%. You hit the nail on the head. It 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 becomes a mutually destructive situation, and of course, the client ends up taking more of the brunt of that than the company does, but also you have to think of it from the company side. You're never referring them anybody. You're never buying another thing that they sell. You're never gonna be a person on a testimonial saying, "Wow, they changed my life because they're so great to work with." You're never gonna become an asset for them. You will now become, if anything, a liability for them, because if anybody were to come up to you on the street and say, "Hey, what did you think of working with ABC Fitness Company?" You'd probably give them the straight up truth, and there's probably a lot of other people out there like that. And so the easiest kind of lever, the I don't know, the mic drop thing I always use is, do you want your clients to become an asset or a liability? And it's one or the other. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, and, I agree. I don't think they're so-so, because honestly, even if they're not saying great things about you, if they're saying so-so things, that's aren't good things in today's world.
Exactly. Anything less than a hell yeah is a hell no. So yeah.
Now you have a guide that you wrote, and you talk about the 5 post-sale mistakes that cap profit per client. Talk to
Yes.
us about those.
Yeah, so, each one of them connects back to, 1 or a couple, there's 5, so there's 4 sales. Each one of them connects back to one of the 4 sales. Yeah, it's freebie linked in my, website, just bradleyrausch.com, but just going through, a couple of those there. Usually the easiest ones to, again, just to lift on, to fix. Number 1 is founder involvement, and this is just gonna be a cultural thing, like, not something that I can fix in a 3-minute blurb on a podcast for somebody, but uh, looking at where your discretionary effort is going as a founder. One of the best challenges I love to give people that I talk to is look through your calendar, find all the gaps in the last couple of weeks. Where did your time, try and remember or think back, where did your time go during those gaps, right? You had an opening from 2 to 4 on a Tuesday afternoon. Did you review your team sales calls? Did you look at your ads and see how you could improve them? Did you look at your try and rewrite your branding tagline for the 100th time? I'm not saying any of those things are bad, but all I'm saying is, if there wasn't at least a minute that was that you spent thinking about, hey, how can I make the client experience better? Hey, why didn't this person refer? Hey, why didn't this person ascend to the next offer? I would just encourage you to take a hard look at yourself, because it's one thing to say, oh well, what was on the plan, right? But it's another thing to look at, where did your discretionary effort go when you had nothing else to do. Where did you put your time? And oftentimes it's the front end things. So yeah, not a bad thing. It just needs to be a balance. Um, Another thing which really just connects back to the onboarding, is mismanaging your clients' emotions. So many, exactly like you said with the information, it's information dump. It's there's no, even for the more sophisticated buyers, right? Even if it's a, I don't know, it's a functional health optimization thing for 50K to take somebody from I don't know, 10% body fat to like 8% and ready to go on a stage or something or on a B2B. It's taking my business from running 30K in ads to running 100K in ads a month. Even if it's on the sophisticated side. Um, your clients are human. Like, I don't know, give it another 5 or 10 years, maybe your clients will be AI, but your clients are human, dude. Like, they're gonna have thoughts, they're gonna have and my point is if you don't, at the very least, offer a path for how they can, feel and walk down, those first kind of couple integral moments of delivery or, days to weeks, um, they're gonna make it for you. They're gonna build out their own, and you don't wanna leave that to risk because again, those your onboarding, I think, has the highest leverage, right? You can never, in terms of emotional equity, you can always build. Sorry, you can only really build more during those first 72 hours, right? If you in that fitness program had just been blown away by the first 72 hours, by the onboarding, by the experience and customized to you and everything, da 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 da, your emotional equity would have been so high that even if there was still friction in the process, it would have remained high, right? But because you came in and the onboarding was such crap, even if by when you got to week 4, magically everything turned around and magically everything was amazing and you got all this customized feedback and it was exactly what you thought it was gonna be, there would always be a voice in the back of your head that says, "Why wasn't it like this in the first place?" And they would never be able to recover that emotional equity with you. And so building it from the beginning just pays dividends for the rest of the time that you interact with that client. So there's a couple.
Yeah, no, and that makes perfect sense. I think that's so important. And you talked about some of these AI. What are some other tools you like for building some of these simple systems that scale without having to add a bunch of headcount?
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I do a lot with AI, custom GPT, custom Claude projects, things like that. To be completely honest with you, I am a very when it comes to not only build for myself, but then also build for clients and things. I'm a very front load the lift person, the task person. Oftentimes, I'll of course get integrated with whatever the company does, whether it's, Slack for ad hoc stuff, or if they've got a full custom backend, go high level, build how where they're tracking and metrics and all that. Like, sure, that's fine. As far as implementation of some of these, changes and things like that, I have yet to encounter an offer or a business that will not get reasonable returns on putting in effort with things like a simple shareable Google Sheet that a client knows how to use themselves without needing an hour-long course on how to use an app, even if you already know how to use the app. But sending a Google Sheet to where everybody knows how to, I'm sorry, it's 2026. Everybody knows how to use a Google Sheet. Everybody knows how to take a simple template, insert their own stuff, spit out information, and have the formulas in there and everything. Everybody knows how to do that. Another thing, voice notes. Huge believer in voice notes for
Mm.
prospecting, for CS, for everything. Um, I've gotten pushback before for sure that it's like, okay, well, at scale, how am I going to have my CS team sending, if we have 100 clients that we're managing at one time, how am I going to have my CS team managing 100 voice notes a day and responding? Because then the client's going to respond in voice notes and da 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 da. Okay, first off, transcripts, you can read the damn transcript so you don't have to listen to the client voice note. But second, the again, emotional equity that you build with the client by really training your CS team on tonality and intonation and knowing when to really, lean into certain things. Almost training your CS team not as a sales team, but with the same intention that you train your sales team,
Mm.
right? Everybody talks on the sales stuff. We talk all day long about make sure, oh, your tonality was really off when you said this, or oh, when you pitched this, you should have said that this way, or da 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 da. Think about it this way. Nobody ever has those conversations with anybody in CS. It's a Wild West. They're just like, make sure the client doesn't die, make sure they don't refund, anything else, I don't care. There's no
I've
support.
definitely been
And
there.
so that's
Definitely been there. I feel like I've been the consumer and I've worked at law firms that were like that too.
uh-huh, uh-huh. And so it's training with that. And then again, the one of my favorite ways to install that then just culturally is, I like to say, make it a culture of voice, make it a culture of voice notes. And it's so funny then because oftentimes, client success people do this, I think, because they're a little bit of bleeding hearts sometimes. And it gives them an opportunity to lean into that a little bit while also being very strategic about setting things up like referral asks, testimonial asks, which you need more equity built for. So I think it's a win-win.
That's awesome. Bradley, we could probably do this for hours, which wouldn't be very fair to you, but my listeners would love it. Um, Obviously, where if people really want to dig in and learn more, what's the best way to hit you up?
Yeah, so I post on LinkedIn every day. LinkedIn's my jam. And then my website is just my name, bradleyrausch.com. You can get that free guide on there. And a little more about me, but I post on LinkedIn every day, video content, shorts, clips, stuff like that. I was a creator in my old life over on Instagram, so I bleed that into LinkedIn a little bit. It's my little hobby. So, but LinkedIn would be the best place to
Awesome,
connect.
and we'll put those links in the notes as well. Before you go though, Bradley, what does it mean to you to level up?
I think both personally and also professionally, the word advocacy is a really big thing for me. And y- y- I do a lot of as I think so many entrepreneurs do, you do a lot of personal development. Like I always love those things online where they say the best therapy you can ever get is starting a business or running a business. Um, so I think asking yourself, what are you pushing for? Asking yourself, what are you advocating for? Just with everything that you're doing, instead of doing things blind or kind of without being pulled or pushed towards something. Um, I don't know. I think about that, and this probably sounds a little woo woo, maybe, but I just for whatever reason for me, I think about that concept, and the work just feels a lot better. Feels a lot more intentional. Feels like I can do it longer. More sustainable. Probably put it that way.
Hmm, I love that. Well, thank you so much for
So probably
yeah.
sounds like
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's been amazing and we're just so grateful that you gave us this time today.
no, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity, man. Really good to chat.
I'd like to thank Bradley Rausch for joining us on the podcast. He really does embody the idea of leveling up. His focus on just making sure not only the onboarding process is perfect, but even timing asking for referrals. He's really thought through the whole experience, so much more than just make the sale, make the sale, make the sale, which is the trap that we all fall into. And I couldn't agree with his advice more. Look back on your calendar and make sure you're dedicating some of that open time to improving this experience so your bottom line is better and your customers are happier. Follow us on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe to the show if you want more conversations like this. And if you're serious about operating at a higher level, join us June 12th at the Level Up Claim Summit. Limited seats, exclusive room. Request your invitation at levelupclaim.com.